Hey guys, what's going on? I got a video here so you guys can check out some of the latest projects I'm working on here, and some of these cars are mine. Excuse me, all the rolling stock is mine, but I do have a locomotive I'm working on that I'll be showing again here that you probably guys haven't seen in a while, but it's a switcher that I'm gonna probably just bring back here real quick, so you guys can check that out. Anyways, I wanted to start with some rolling stock projects I'm working on. There's nothing crazy going on here, but I do have a big announcement that I'll save towards the end of the video here, after we get the majority of the stuff. But it's going to be a big project I'm actually going to take on. It's actually very big, and I'll explain it here in a minute. But to start, the cars I have been working on, and I'll get this one out of the way first. I recently got this GATX crude oil tank car. This is one of the Walther's 31K crude cars. Excuse me. And the only thing I got to do this yet, I just recently got this actually, I just picked it up. I need to obviously weather it still, but I wanted to show you guys this ahead of time while I have it out, just so you guys know to look out for this one when it's done. It won't be anything too crazy. It'll just have a nice light weathering on it, so that'll be an upcoming project here pretty soon that I'll work on when I get around to it. But the cars I do have done, I recently did these two Atlas crude tank cars, and with these, what I was trying to go for here was some cars that have recently been refurbished. A lot of these usually get repainted after a certain point in time, and I know for a fact a lot of these are getting repainted. So what my intention with these was to model kind of some cars that got refurbished. So you can see these are still relatively fresh paint. You can see it's still a nice high gloss finish. But what I did with both of these cars, as a matter of fact, was I just give them a nice gloss coating, and then I just hit up the trucks, the couplers, to make them look kind of rusty, to indicate like fresh rusty metal. And then you got the blue bearing caps on the trucks there, another indication that this is a relatively newer car. So you can see these look pretty nice. So I think these look pretty sweet actually. Here's the other side of this one, and then we got this one. So nothing too crazy on these. Like I said, I just want to have some more kind of fresh cars to have in my fleet of all dirty cars, just to kind of mix things up a bit. So I think these look pretty nice, though. I really like them. These are pretty nice cars from Atlas. So those will be going into service hauling crude oil on my mixed rates. So go ahead and set those aside. The last car I have worked on recently is a car I just picked up from a friend of mine. This is a Dow-X center flow car, and this is an Atlas hopper, one of the ECF Plastics cars, and these are pretty clean from what I saw in the photo. So I tried to go with very light weathering on this. So what I did was just really kind of darken the walkway a little bit like that, and then just kind of try to do some chipping paint effects on the around the well, basically on the top of the roof and around these hatches. You can see these chip paint effects. You can see. So I think those came out pretty nice. That's just one of the touches I did on this, and then you can see just a little grime on the top sill here, underneath the platforms especially. It's important to get under there, so I did. And you got a little like indications of some rust streaking here and there, but nothing crazy. I did add the safety stripes to this. That was the only other thing I had to do, and I'll point out something here too. The stripes here, these are the factory stripes. These are the ones that came on this model. On the bottom are the new stripes, my reflective tape striping, and I was trying to go for the look of a car like I've been seeing a lot here recently. A lot of these cars that had safety stripes added in the early 2000s are getting new stripes, and so what happens is you have the old striping, and then the new striping will usually be like positioned sort of like this, where like you'll have vertical or horizontal bands kind of mixed together like that. So I think that effect looks pretty cool, and I'm just kind of trying to replicate that on my models here, so I think that came out pretty cool. A lot of times railroads anymore, they don't even seem to spray paint over the old ones. They just leave them on there and then put the new ones over them, or even right beside them. I've seen in a few cases, so I think that looks pretty cool. I did do some custom graffiti also. That was the other thing I did, so it looks pretty cool. But it's a relatively clean car, and I think it looks pretty cool. So it'll be joining my fleet of center flow cars, hauling plastic pellets. So it looks pretty good. Some detail on the trucks there, you can see. I did again scrape off the rims of the wheels. That way they're nice and nice, clean, shiny metal, just like the prototype. The other thing I did too, a lot of times you'll see these the outlet caps on these bays on the underneath the car. Sometimes they're spray painted this red color. I'm not sure why, but I kind of tried to replicate this look of some replacement panels here on these bays. So I think that looks pretty cool. And I just hand painted those, obviously, and then just touched up the caps and did some patchwork to the bottom there on this one too. That was another thing I did. So nothing crazy there, but you know, there's kind of some nice variation on this. The other thing I did too, you can see I darkened the panel lines too. Something very important you got to do on these cars, because that's where the grime is going to streak down, is these panel lines. So I hit those up pretty well too. So looks pretty good though. Nice car. You can see the ends there too. You got a little kick up on the walk plate platforms, and I just did a simple wash on the interior platforms there, underneath the slope. So that looks pretty cool. So these are my those are the cars I've been working on lately, and I'll have some more rolling stock pretty soon here. I'll show you, and I'll show you guys this one when it's done too. But moving on, I have a locomotive here that I haven't showed in a while. This is a CSX 1167, and this is a switcher I'm doing for a customer. And currently, I got it mostly about. It's almost there. I'd say it's about 80% complete at this point. The weathering is just about done. The only thing I still got to do is the wheel faces. I got to take these trucks off, but you know, these Athearn Genesis, the trucks are a bear to take off. They're really a pain, so I got to be careful and get in there. But it's got to be done, and if I don't do it, obviously you'll have shiny wheels under the weathered frames, so that won't look realistic. So I got to get in there and do that. But this has been quite a project so far, because I had to do quite a bit to it, and I obviously weathered this one off of photos. If you remember in the last video, I showed some of the photos. I don't have them with me now, but what I did was I obviously did the bleached CSX paint. As you can see, I faded down the gray quite a bit too. That was something else I did. You got the interesting colored stacks here on the hood, which is also really cool. You got a yellow, kind of some yellow paint bleeding through the gray on this, and then you got blue on this one, which I thought was kind of cool. So I replicated that in the model as well. You can see it's got lots of exhaust soot on the roof. Darkened the grills on this as well. Made it just a real nice, grimy, beat up old switcher prior to its repainting to YM3. So I think it looks pretty good. I did add the ditch lights to it too. That was the other thing I did. So I'm just finishing up at the detailing on it now, and I gotta get a new handrail set for it to put on, and then I'll be able to basically get it finished and out the door. So the other thing I also did too, the big thing, I had to paint the cab roof. So I painted that white, and I did add the horn stand, the extended horn stand on the roof there with the RS5T on there. So looks pretty good. But you can see the white roof is starting to really chip up. It's starting to get pretty beat up, just like it looked in the photos, which I think looks pretty cool. You can see the bleaching on the cab. All that was done. It's a very painstaking to do all that, because you do it all by hand with fine brushes, so it takes a bit of time, but it really looks good to do it that way. I'm very happy with how it's turning, so probably another week I can get this thing done and hopefully out the door. So I might show another, probably more than likely I'll show some pictures of this on my Facebook group so you guys can check it out when it's done on Facebook. So that'll be pretty cool to see when it's done. And just real quick, here's the other side. So looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. There's the ditch lights on the rear too, and all the yellow was faded down as well. So it all looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So go ahead and move this guy aside and over here, and I'll move my cars out of the way for this next little bit here. These cars here in the background, these are all ones I'm selling right now. Those are, I'll be going out the door here pretty soon. But recently I've been doing some locomotive projects. So what I've been working on to start one of my own locomotives is this custom Union Pacific SD6DM. Let's check this guy out here. This is Union Pacific 2505, and if I can kind of adjust the light here, I don't want it to be too bright. There we go, that's better. With this guy, what I had to do, this is one of the newer Athearn Genesis releases, and so what I had to do with this, it was pretty well detailed out of the box. Also, the patching was already done for me, which is nice too. And it had the yellow sill striping as well, but there was still a little bit of work here that I had to do to it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the prototype here. What we have is Union Pacific 2505 as of 2014, so this picture is now about 2 years old. But what I kind of tried to do, what I see here in this photo, you got the yellow sill striping. You can see the front pilot's still pretty clean. The trucks, the fuel tank are all pretty clean too. The grills are darkened, and you can see the paint chipping, or the bleaching, on the side of the hood at the very top, where the transition line of the red goes to the gray. You can see I tried to replicate that on my model here. So there's the paint bleaching. I think that looks pretty good. And I just toned down the yellow just a little bit so it wasn't so bright. That was the other thing I did. And then I just did the simple griming on the trucks, the fuel tank and all that. So it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's not really showing up too well. I'm having a hard time getting this lighting to work with me here. Sorry about that. But the reason I did it this way, because like I said, if you look at the photos, you can see it's still pretty clean. Like I said, this is the most recent photo of this unit from 2014. Considering that that's now 2 years old, I tried to kind of replicate this locomotive as how it would probably look now. So you can see that, like I did, I tried to do it kind of 2 years in advance, or 2 years ahead, excuse me, where you have all the grime and all that kind of starting to build up on the trucks there in particular, where it's going to really hit up the most. So that's what I kind of tried to go for there. That's why I did it. The other thing I had to do too, the speed recorder, for some stupid reason, was located on this bearing here. On the prototype, it's on this one. So I had to obviously add a new speed recorder cable to do that. So that just a simple modification there, but an important detail change that I did. So the other things I did, like you can see some more of the bleaching on the cab roof here. So I did all that again off of photos. And then you can see I darkened the fans, did a little heat damage on there. You got all the exhaust soot and all that. And then the fans are nice and bleached, which also look really nice. Also point out I did the blackened grills, just like the prototype as well. And then the horn here, this is another small but important detail change. The model originally came with a Leslie S3L casting, and though that might have been prototypical for an earlier period on this locomotive, Union Pacific has pretty much standardized these locomotives to have the standard 3-note K3LA horns on these. So obviously I changed the casting around with the cow scale casting to do that. So that was another little detail change like I said I had to do. The other little thing too, as you can see, as of now, the unit has the PTC antennas. So what I did was I installed a PTC antenna. You can see, kind of in comparison to the old gray, you can see the fresh Union Pacific gray on this. So when I painted this, I tried to make it look basically like a brand new paint job on the PTC antennas. And you can kind of see that standing out between the old, weathered, faded down gray. So I think it looks pretty cool. Alright, so on the front pilot here, you can see I did the grime effects, standard stuff there, and you got it kicking up on the sill striping here just a little bit. You can see the kick up spray pattern. I think that looks pretty cool. Got the working ditch lights on this bad boy, so that's pretty awesome. I did add the new airline to this. That was the only other detail change I did on these pilots, was the new airline, since the stock factory ones are kind of suckish, they're too short. I did fade down the nose here too. Obviously, any little bit of gray here I had to kind of tone down because it's obviously faded on the real locomotive. So as we move to this side, pretty much the same. And I have another photo here too. I'll show you if I can pull it up here. So we have this one, and then in this photo you can see here's the other side of the guy. You get the paint chipping and the fading here, and you can see the grime that I was talking about on the trucks and on the front pilots. So that's what I tried to do here, as you can see. So that looks pretty cool. I like that. You got a little grime streaking down these grills here too, but there's the paint chipping I was talking about. There's the prototype, and there's the copy, basically. So it looks pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that, actually. Looks really nice. The other thing I did to this too, I added the reflective tape. Like I said, this unit factory has the yellow striping on the sills, which is correct, but I wanted this to obviously all be reflective, so I replaced it with my reflective tape. So I cut the strips out, apply it to the sills, and then cut out the new areas for the handrails to go back into their mounting holes, and called it good. So pretty happy with that. It's a pretty nice feature to have reflective striping on everything from locomotives to rolling stock. It's pretty cool. I like that. So the other, you can see the bleach spots on the cab, and I of course did that as of the photos too. So that looks pretty cool. So and then just a quick look at the back here before we move on. You can see pretty much the same. I did add the knuckle brackets to this, and then the spare knuckles as well. That's an important detail that these modern units have, is the spare knuckles. I also did add the MU jumper cable too, with the receptacles and the lids. So I added that and the airline as well. So that was an important detail. A little bit of detail change on the back here too, so that was something important I did, again, based off of the prototype. And you can see the kick up and all that on the plows kind of working its way up, starting to spray up there on the sill, so that looks pretty badass. I like that. I think it looks really sweet. And you can see all the exhaust soot and all that kind of streaking down the back of the high hood there. It's all over the fans, all over the top there. But yeah, it looks really, really nice. I'm really happy with how this guy turned out. So it's another modern Union Pacific locomotive ready to enter service. So once this gets the decoder in it, she'll be good to go and ready to run. So hopefully I'll get a video of this running when it's actually completed, and I can get another kind of some op sessions in, if you will. Put together a train, put this in the lead, have a lease or trailing or something like that. So who knows? But there's my Union Pacific SD6DM. I think that looks pretty awesome. We'll go ahead and set that aside. Now, this next unit, and the very last unit I'm going to show you, is kind of more of a conversational piece in its own, because it kind of is, there's a story behind it, and kind of some frustrating aspects to when I did the project, but I'm still happy with how it turned out, but I'll try to keep it kind of a long story short here. Here we have CEFX 2798, and what I did with this particular engine, I was trying to model one of the popular CEFX units, where these were the former Union Pacific SD40M-2s, one of the MK rebuilds, Morris Knudsen rebuild, excuse me. And what they did with these, when CEFX got them, they still had relatively fresh Union Pacific armor yellow and gray, so they were still pretty clean when they got them. So, you know, even though they picked up a little bit of mileage, they still stayed relatively clean. So that's what I kind of try to portray here with this particular locomotive. But the story behind the 2798, this started life as one of the Athearn RTR, one of the newer releases of the lightning bolt scheme on the UP SD45. So when I saw the locomotive come out, I was kind of thinking originally, yeah, I can take one of those and transform it into one of these CEFX yellow SD40M-2s, no big deal. I thought it would be, you know, pretty easy. The only difference would be, you know, changing the paint, swapping a few details out. But let me tell you, it was not that simple. It became quite a pain in the butt. This whole project, it just ended up being it just opened a can of worms of kind of nightmares in terms of the detail change I had to do, the painting and all that, all the changing, taking graphics off. It ended up becoming quite a project. So I'll go ahead and kind of start by showing you guys the prototype photo, just so you guys can see some reference here. Here's the real CEFX 2798, you can see, and this is another one of the most recent photos of this unit before it got put in storage and I believe sold off. So you can see it still looks pretty clean, but when I did the model, I was trying to kind of make it look like this, obviously, but I just wanted to weather it a little bit more, kind of, you know, obviously since it's an older photo, I wanted to weather it with a few additional years worth of grime kind of coated on it. So what I ended up having to do to start with this particular locomotive was, first I got the prototype photos, I looked through them, figured out what all needed to be changed on it, and the big thing obviously was the paint scheme, modifications, and then removing all the old stock lettering and numbers. So obviously I had to strip off the old Union Pacific lettering on the high hood, which I had to do, which was ended up taking quite a bit of time, because Athearn's newest printing quality, or their newest basically style of printing for Union Pacific logos, is a hell of a mess to get off because it's so thick. So it was just a matter of taking microscol, layering it over and over and over again, scrubbing it until the letters peeled, and then finally getting off. And like, I'm not kidding, it probably took me at least 2 hours to strip the whole Union Pacific lettering off just one side of this, and it was a real pain in the butt, I'll tell you what. The cab numbers came off pretty easily, but even still, those still took a little bit of time to kind of eat away at. But obviously, once I got the lettering off, then I had to change the striping up here, because the lightning bolt scheme obviously goes like this. You all know, you know what the lightning bolt scheme looks like. So I had to obviously backdate this so that it has the scheme that these have, which is the early Union Pacific, kind of the what they call the modern Union Pacific scheme before the lightning bolt, where it was kind of a standardized paint scheme like this. So what I had to do was I had to repaint this whole top area underneath the dynamics back to gray. I had to strip off all the old red striping on the car body and then restripe it. So that was another kind of a time-consuming process there. And of course, the factory model came with yellow reflective sill striping, so I had to strip all that off and replace it with red reflective sill striping. And this is actually reflective tape on the sills, which is also kind of cool. This is the first unit I've done with reflective sill striping, which is actually red. So I think it looks really cool. So you have the red reflective sill striping, and then I put the modern yellow reflective striping on it as well. So I think that looks really awesome. But other than the graphic changes and then the paint modifications, those were probably the hardest aspects of doing this locomotive. It was not an easy thing, and it was a lot more work than I had originally anticipated, but it was definitely worth it in the end because I'm pretty happy with how this guy turned out. But what I did, obviously, I used the microscale sheet to do all the new decals. So I renumbered it 2798 just like the prototype, detailed it, weathered it all to the prototype photos. You can see you got all the truck weathering, all the new detailings done. I did the fuel tank detailing again as the prototype. You can see I did some mud splatter in there too, which looks pretty cool. Got a little fuel spillage down the side. On this side of the tank you got the waste retention tank there, which looks pretty cool, and then again you got a little mud splatter tucked in between there. I think it looks pretty cool. The trucks are nice and grimy. They're not too dirty, but they are grimy, so I think that looks also pretty cool. And you can see the journal bearings, or the journal housings, are all nice and grimy. This kind of greasy black color that they usually turn after a while, so I did that. Looks pretty cool. Darkened the grills on it as well. Did a little streaking there, some soot kind of dripping down the grills. Obviously put all the new warning labels on it as well. On the cab roof here, the other thing I did, I had to relocate the air conditioner so that it matched the location of the prototype. So you got the new AC unit up there, relocated that, put the new antenna tray on there. You got the new radio antenna, and then I added a new P5 casting to this because I've noticed that a lot of the CEFX units are now getting K5LAs and P5s, all new cast, and so I wanted to kind of replicate that with this unit, so I put a new cast P5 on there to kind of bring this thing up to date, basically. So that all came out pretty good. See, I had to redecal the number boards, obviously. Did all the decal work to the front nose. What I did was I painted the nose red. I just airbrushed that and then applied the decal chevrons on there. Put the grab irons back on there and all that. That was a little bit time consuming, but not too hard. But it is an important aspect to these CFX units, and definitely their unique spotting features. The red nose, I think that looks really awesome. Really a classic look for these classic lease units. On the plow here, there's a lot to be said as well, because on the plow I had to do a lot of additional detailing. The coupler bars and the MU cables, well, not the MU cables, the MU cables were stock, but unfortunately due to the plow modifications I ended up losing the original MU cables because they broke. They're very delicate, I find, anymore, so I ended up having to replace the front MU cables with my own parts, which are made from wire. So I had to install those, paint them, as always, you know. I got the MU jumper on there with the outlet and the casting installed, and you can see the Union Pacific style MU receptacle holder there. So I just routed the MU cable, the jumper, right through that. I think that looks pretty cool. You got the MK style ditch lights, added the drop step, and then you got the new Union Pacific style snow plow, which is a modified Athearn plow, one of the SP large plows, one of their large snow plows. I basically cut down the wings and re-angled the very corners of the plow as well to kind of more closely match the contours of a Union Pacific North Little Rock style plow. And then I also added the grab irons to the plow as well. So you can see I obviously weathered it, did all that, so that looks pretty cool. I really like the detailing on the front pilots, especially. I think those came out pretty well. As we move on to this side, you can see again pretty much about the same. I'll try to get this thing so we have some good lighting here. There we go. You can see you did all the decaling on the cab there. Got the new wind deflectors in the cab as well. That was another important detail change I had to do. So it looks pretty good. The trucks and all that, all the fuel tank, all weathered up, all came out really nice. And then here's this truck. And then the very back of the fuel tank there. Now, before I move to the back pilot, on the roof here, I just kind of tried to do some paint chipping effects like the prototypes. You can see you had the gray primer kind of bleeding through, and then I did the two replaced radiator fans on the back here too. I think that looks pretty cool. So, pretty typical pretty typical of these MK rebuilds. They almost always had mismatched fans, which I thought was as a pretty interesting detail feature on these particular units. So I did the mismatched fans, like I said, got the paint chipping on there, and then I just kind of weathered it up with some grime here and there, and then you got all the exhaust soot on the roof as well. So that looks pretty cool. And then on the back here, obviously added the CEFX decals there, the new number, shaved off the class lights, got all the new detailing on the back end here. I did add the knuckle brackets, the MU receptacle here, and the MU receptacle here. So those are the other things I did. And then the drop step there as well was the other detail that I added. But all important stuff you need to do to make these look accurate. Obviously all the detailing. And then I got the MU, or not the MU cable, but the airline on the back here as well. So that looks pretty good. I'm really happy with how the detailing turned out. I think the weathering especially really brought this thing to life. The only other little thing I have to say about the back here, I ended up, since there was so many frustrating aspects to when I was building this thing, I ended up missing the number boards because these aren't supposed to be here. On the real units, during their when the MK shopped these ATS FSD45s, they removed the number boards and they removed the class lights. And kind of halfway through when I was done with this, I was applying the decals to the back here, and I realized I forgot to shave those off. And I was like, damn. So it's kind of one of those things. They're there, and they're not supposed to be. So I can't say that this model is 100% accurate. You know, I could go back and do that later, supposedly. But right now, you know, I just kind of, after I had finished all the paint touch up here and all my decal work, it'd just kind of be a pain in the butt to go back and have to shave all that off and completely redo all this. So, you know, it's all right for now. You know, it'll be all right. It's kind of one of those things. It's not really, you're not going to just notice it off the back, off the front anyway. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things I could go back and change later. But for now, you know, it's all right. All right. So to finish up this video, I have an announcement. I'm going to be doing a pretty large project here, and it's going to be weathering trash flats. Actually, as a matter of fact, I have my U.S. waste trash flat out here with the matching containers for U.S. waste. And I actually have to do 50 of these here pretty soon. So I got a couple cars coming in the mail, 50 in total. So that's 50 flat cars, and then 4 matching containers per car, which adds up to 200 containers that I all got to weather by hand. Yeah. So it's going to be quite a project. So it's going to probably take up most of my time. But for the next couple of months, I'll probably be working on that. And I'll probably be posting some videos, possibly of some weathering updates on how I do the project. But it should be interesting, kind of going along, showing you guys some of the ways I weather these. I'll probably do some videos on like doing some of this garbage juice splatter, for example, and just kind of weathering these. So I think it'll be an interesting video when it comes out. But yeah, that's what I'll be doing. That's the big announcement. So I'll have to do 50 of these, and then I'll have to do, I think, 50 Allied Waste trash flats. And then I have 50 for myself that I'll also be doing. So that'll probably take up the majority of my time. I also got a Union Pacific GP40-2 that I'm going to be doing. It'll be in the speed or the lightning bolt scheme, so I'm going to be working on a detailed project for that. But that'll be some of the projects coming up. Like I said, guys, I'll keep you guys posted on some as I keep going here. I'll be posting some pictures on Facebook of completed models that I do as well, so you guys can keep track of that. So yeah, be sure to check me out on Facebook. Dan's Custom Trades is my Facebook page. Daniel Arnold is my name there, so you can look me up, friend me if you like. That's fine. And subscribe here on YouTube. Leave comments. That's all good to me. I always love to hear you guys, your compliments, what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. Let me hear it. So, yeah, I'll keep you guys posted on the newest projects that come out, and hopefully get some more projects rolling. So, thanks for watching as always, guys. Take care.